guys, it's Jackson, your head coach, and I'm here with Allie, our yoga instructor. And today she's going to talk about a stretch that you might be familiar with, but she's going to show you a few different variations to make it a little more accessible and to give you more benefit from the actual pose.
Great. Yeah, the pose is pigeon pose, which you might find in the warm-up or cool down in your workout. And often we sort of throw ourselves into that shape and it might feel uncomfortable and perhaps not like you're getting the full benefit out of it, especially if you have less of a range of motion in your hips. So I want to show you a few different ways to do this pose, particularly taking the body weight out of it. So rather than starting leaning forward, we'll actually start seated, building the pose in order to find more mobility in the hip, a little bit more weight taken off of the knee and ankle joint, so that you can find more benefit in the pose and hopefully do it with a little less pain. We'll do this on the left side. So bring your left knee out to the side and then bring it up and over your leg. Yep, and then shin is parallel to the body. You'll notice right away here where you're at with this pose, for example, if you have a more open hip or a little bit tighter, and how that feels in the shape. You want to bring your hands back behind you and then start to lift your chest forward, letting both sides of your hips sink into the floor. And then you can bend your extended leg, bringing your foot to the floor, and scoot your hips towards your heels. As you do that, you're going to feel more intensification of the stretch in your hip. If it feels like too much, you can back out. Just sort of feel where it feels right to you. Keep the knee moving away from you. Yes, awesome. And the chest reaching forward. Having hands on the floor here helps to create that shape and allow one to use the strength of the arms to keep opening your hip. You can keep scooting into that shape, hips to heels. Hips to heel, and opening through the chest. Continue to keep your shin parallel to the floor. This is something that we want to maintain in that good shape and pigeon pose as well. And eventually you can even take this into sort of a seated thread the needle shape where you have one hand reaching through and then the other to join it as you hold the front side of your shin. Breathing tall, holding into the shape. You can stay here for 2 breaths, maybe you stay here for 15. When you're done, you can gently back out of that shape, relax, maybe shake out your legs a little bit. In your own practice, you can switch and do the other side, but let's move into pigeon pose to connect those two shapes together. So on that left side, let's try and build pigeon pose. You guys can sort of scoot your legs around however you like and come to all fours, and then maybe step into it from downward dog, however you like. Yeah, nice. So right away, you'll see that for those of us for whom it's easier to keep that hip open and the shin parallel to the floor, that it's easy to find the shape. But where it's more challenging, there are more options that we can add to make this easier. For example, you can prop up the outside hip by putting a block under your thigh. You can even put 2 blocks or have it up on the higher length so that you can sit down onto that block. Give yourself a little bit more space to breathe, to work on exactly trying to bring that shin forward. So even if it feels like you're backing out of the pose completely, probably the most important thing that you want to do is try and have the shin parallel with the ground. So lean out to the side, yeah, and bring that foot forward. Even if it means you're leaning out, that's okay. Stay with it, stay with your breath. Try and keep the other side of your body engaged meanwhile. If this pose feels great to you, feels good, you can start to walk your hands forward. And even one thing you can do here is put some pressure from the bottom of your foot onto the floor, lift that thigh up off the ground and really feel a strong length and engagement through one side of the body that's going to allow your other side, the hip, to come down. So regardless of where you're at with this pose, there's a few different ways to do it. And those initial steps of starting seated with the number 4 stretch with your leg will start to make this more available, more accessible, and ultimately more beneficial.